What do you get when you mix baseball and football?
Base footballs?
No. This is Bunts and Bruises. If it's the weekly hot topics in sports, we're talking about it.
We're talking about it.
And we're having fun. Your home for sports and entertainment. We're the best at rolling with the punches. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. This is Bunts and Bruises. And here's your host, Bars.
And how are we doing tonight? It is a beautiful night to talk sports. As always, it is the one, the only, the Don of baseball. That is Bars Barcia. Dealing with my man Jake, not the Cy Young Award winner Snake. How you doing today, bud?
Oh my God, so great. I'm so excited to talk baseball. It's been such a weird, kind of very slow time in sports with the NBA coming to a wrap, and it's you know what I mean? It's a great time for baseball, so I'm excited.
Oh, yeah, man. I'm excited, too, because we're finally getting to that part of the season where it's not All-Star break yet. It's creeping up, though, where, we're close enough to it where you can start talking about trade candidates, and we got an idea of what teams need some pieces, what teams should just completely give up, because that's actually more than like 2/3 of the league, as we're learning this year, because apparently no one wants to try anymore. But we've had plenty of episodes of me complaining about cap and money and whatever. Let's not get into it. We're here to have fun today, so let's keep going with it. We're here, like I said, close enough to talk about trades, close enough to know who has their foundation. And that's what really we're going to dive into today. We're going to dive into the trade season and some early trade rumors. Who's the buyers, who's the sellers, and who's the top candidates who just, need a new change of scenery. Jake, before we really get started, I want to ask you, what's your opinion right now with just the way the league's looking? Because it looks like it's a guarantee the Mets, the Yankees, the Dodgers. If you're a top 4 team, you're hitting over 100 wins because, like I said, 2/3 of the league is just – they're in the dust. What do you think about that, man? You think something needs to be done? You think this is just a new normal we got to live with?
The league is really top heavy right now, and you can see which teams, obviously the teams with the highest payrolls right now are at the top of the Mets, Yankees, Dodgers, you know what I mean? And the Phillies do boast one of the highest payrolls, but aren't really getting success in terms of their dollar amount for sure. It's really interesting to see how the game has kind of changed. Like you said, there are a lot of teams competing, but there are a lot of teams that are also the number one top of their division and kind of dominating, like the Mets. The Dodgers are in a very tough division, but they are steering clear to be the best team right now. The Yankees are in a very tough division, but they are steering clear to be the best in their division. But there's still hope for a lot of teams. You know what I mean? There's still 2 wild card spots. The Blue Jays are looking to compete. The Red Sox are looking to compete. The Padres are looking to compete. The Giants, the Phillies, the Braves. So it's still early, and not really a lot happens at this time in baseball. I think during the month of during the month of June, I don't think many trades have actually happened, like notable trades in the last 5 years that really have happened. I think Jock Peterson, was traded during June, and I think back in 2018 it was Manny Machado. So this is a very quiet time in baseball where a lot of teams are still trying to figure out whether they're going to be a buyer and sellers. So I'm hoping we're getting an early jump on it.
Yeah, man. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. I want to hear who you think, as we said, since we're talking about all the negativity and how much these teams are, just low producers, we're high, top heavy. Let me hear who you think is your top seller right now. I mean, your top buyer right now. Who needs that piece out of those top heavy teams, and who's looking to add more to their team and really make a run for this ring right now?
Well, a team that I mentioned with a very extremely high payroll, the Philadelphia Phillies, very underperforming and not really, like I said, meeting in terms of success toward the dollar amount for them right now. I think they're 21-28, 13 games out of first. So many people, why would they be buying, especially with so much money tied up? I think they have $246 million tied up between JT Realmuto, Zach Wheeler, Castellanos, and Schwarber, and that's through 2024. Not to mention they have Castellanos $40 million through 2025, 2026. They have JT Realmuto another $23 million in 2025. So they have so much money tied up right now, and but they're a good team. Like Bryce Harper's still having a good year, Castellanos is having a good year, Nola's having a good year, Zach Wheeler looks like the Cy Young if you take away those first 5 games. So why I think they're going to be a big buyer is because after the All-Star break, they go on this huge stand of just playing easy teams. From July 22nd to August 31st, they play the Reds 7 times, the Pirates 7 times, the Braves 5 times, the Nationals 4 times, the Cubs 3 times, the Marlins 3 times, and the Diamondbacks 3 times. Sprinkled in, they play the Mets 7 times. So over a 40-game odd stretch, they play one team over 500. And that's where I think they can close that 13-game gap if they have the right people. They are missing a center fielder. Gene Segura just went down. So they're going to need a depth behind Gene Segura and Didi Gregorius. They need Kyle Schwarber to hit a little better than 180, whatever he is hitting. But I think if they can add a center fielder to kind of place Odubel Herrera, give them not that kind of shell of himself as a center fielder, I think that'll really help and go a long way. But I could easily see where people see them as sellers. But I think they will be buyers this coming trade deadline.
See, before the show started, we were talking a little bit, and you told me how you have them as buyers, and it caught me off guard. I was one of the people who, honestly, I think the Phillies are going to try and be sellers, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, you proved your point when you showed me the schedule they got coming out. They do have a chance. Just the only thing I got against that right now is, they haven't won the games they need to win. Even though they have this easy schedule coming up, do you really feel confident that they're going to win those games? Because it's not a matter of, they only need to win more than 500 of those games. No, they need to be well above 500. They need to be at least 10 games above 500 to 20 to really make a run for it. Because as it currently stands, they're not even third in the division. The Marlins are over them. Well, yes, it's not by much. It's probably by 1 win, couple losses, something like that. But they have more talent than the Marlins, but they haven't been really. I don't know if it's been the way they've been coached, as some people are saying, because you're hearing the words of Joe Girardi has overstayed his welcome. He's just not meshing with players, or it's not working there, which is why we're seeing more of a downfall with all this added talent and all this money spent. But at the same time, Marlins they got this youth thing going. It's been a little slower than we thought it was going to be, but they got the pitching. And really, that's what I got to hold against the Phillies more than anything, is their starting lineup it's not great. Zach Wheeler, he's doing good. He's not doing as good as he was last year. Aaron Nola, who is that guy? Forget about him. He's no longer the stud we once thought he was. And then after that, it just gets a little murky. And beyond that, their bullpen is just it's a question. So I do agree with you that they do have a chance to fill out some holes here if they do find a center fielder, or even if, they're able to withstand the John Segura injury. I don't know, man. I'm kind of curious if they really should be buying instead of selling, because like you said, they got some pieces, man. And maybe it's just time to accept a full blow up, in my opinion.
It's hard to accept a full blow up because I don't think there are not many teams that are going to be willing to ever move Bryce Harper's contract. I think he'll be firmly entrenched in Philly. I think he will play out his days in Philadelphia. But he's been great. He's been an MVP last year. He's putting up those numbers this year. His 18 doubles already. He's been hitting like an absolute monster. You're going to pay him that money. You're going to pay Castellanos this money. I think you're trying to win. You are trying to win. Those aren't moves to think, hey, well, if it doesn't work, we're just going to get rid of a couple people. I don't see that. I really don't. I do expect them to make a move. I really do. I really think they want to win in a division that just saw the Braves win the World Series last year. The Mets on the rise. I think they want to compete and they want to win.
You mentioned the Bryce Harper contract, and to be honest, I get it. You're right. It's going to be tough to move, but as the years go on, man, this thing is looking a little bit more and more like a deal. There's going to be players that are starting to make more than him. That 300 mark, let's see what Aaron Judge does this year, because the way it's looking, he's going to make well over that first offer that the Yankees offer.
Yeah.
He's going to hit the 300 mark without a doubt. So as
Especially if he wins the MVP.
Exactly. And as some of these contracts go, like people used to say the Stanton contract was looking atrocious. He's still hitting great. And as the years go on, you look at it and go, wow, that's more of a deal. So it really depends how these stars pan out. If Bryce Harper could be movable or not. I mean, yeah, that's more looking into the future, but you got to question if the owners, they know something where, because if you look at all these younger stars, I'm talking about Ronald Acuna, Ozzy Albies, Wander Franco, they're taking a lower contract. But then again, you got the Fernando Tatises of the world who they're taking the high contract. I don't think the contract is as unmovable as you say, but you are right. I can see why they would rather buy than sell just due to how many pieces they have. But I mean, you can make the same argument for the vice versa because some of the pieces like Reese Hoskins, he hasn't been the same player as he was when you were expected to make a run.
Yeah, they have a lot going on. They can go a couple of different ways with it. To be honest, like I said, MLB.com had their farm system ranked as 26th in baseball, so they need depth. They need something. So I wouldn't be surprised if they are sellers, but I do expect them to be buyers. Like I said, I think they're willing to compete in a division the NL East has seen the last couple of years. They want to compete.
Hey, man. So show me another team that you have on your list that wants to compete and is really making that push for a ring.
For a ring, I think the Angels. I think the Angels are also going to be potentially be buyers. I mean, they're looking like a scary offensive team with Ohtani, Mike Trout, Rendon playing well, Ward's playing well. So with Ohtani pitching well, Syndergaard pitching well, I think if they fill up, they're a couple players. They need another couple pitchers, maybe another bat in the lineup. I think they can make a run. And I expect them to be buyers. They could be one of those teams that kind of just stay pat, kind of rock with what they have. But I do expect them to add another starting pitching if they actually want to make a run, because you're trying to get, once again, the most out of Mike Trout, the most out of your superstar. You're finally doing it. So let's go. Put your money where your mouth is. You know what I mean? And let's get some wins on the board this year.
You know what, man? I fully agree. I think everyone has known my opinion over the past couple episodes. I even said it with our MLB preview earlier in the year with Jerg. I got them here as a World Series contender way before anyone called it, just because I saw the pieces. Did I expect Taylor Ward to blow up like this? No, but I say let's just dive all in because you have no idea if this opportunity is ever going to come back. You're the Angels. Let's be honest. You could have this run. It could even last another year, but just as quickly as it lasts, it's going to disappear. So I agree with you. I think they could use another bat as well, aside from pitching. You do want to make that rotation a little deeper. Their bullpen has been great, but really why I think you want to add another bat is Anthony Rendon just got added to the 10-day IL. So that's another player you just lost right there. And besides the fact of that, you got David Fletcher on the 60-day IL who might not come back for a good amount of time. You want another bat, so when Rendon gets back, you actually have a beautiful lineup because, as we said last episode, Rendon is finally looking like an MLB player. Hopefully, when he gets back from this injury, it isn't looking as rough as when he started the season, but I fully expect them to make a run at some pitchers over here because do you actually have the ranking of their farm system by you?
MLB ranked the 28th.
28th. So it's questionable what pieces they got to move, but they definitely do have pieces. You just got to hope they don't sell a piece that is really making this thing running. I mean, obviously, Trout and Ohtani aren't going anywhere. I don't think Rendon's going anywhere due to the contract. I like Max Stasey. Hopefully he stays, but I could see him as a movable piece just because you do have Kurt Suzuki right behind him. And as people know up here in New York, he is a dependable catcher. You know, he's not the best, but he's a good backup, I guess. So that's those are great buyers, man. Who do we got as your sellers? Who is now looking? Yeah, we got all these buyers. Who are people looking to move some pieces for these people to acquire?
This is another skeptical team. I think that's kind of on the cuffs, like the Phillies. Really don't know kind of where they're at. And I think this next month will tell for this team what they're going to be, whether they're real buyers or real sellers. I do think they'll end up as sellers. Now, I'm talking about the Red Sox. They're 23-27 right now and 11.5 back. In a very loaded division, top heavy with the Yankees, Rays, and Blue Jays all catching their strides. Now, over this stretch from June 27th to July 24th, they play the Yankees 7 times, the Rays 7 times, and the Blue Jays 6 times. That right there will tell them if they are buyers or sellers this year. Now, I'm not saying the Red Sox are a bad team. They have a great offense. JD Martinez, Xander Bogaerts, Devers is having an MVP-like year. They have a great offense. it comes down to their pitching. Evaldi's playing very well, but nothing really behind that. Nick Betts have a lot better year than I thought he was going to have, but there's not much going on there. Chris Sale, he also has a no trade clause, and Xander Bogaerts currently has a no trade clause. But I still think they'll be sellers. Just I don't think they'll be able to get his Xander Bogaerts deal done. I think Christian Vasquez is kind of overdone. He's playing real well right now, and his kind of trade value is kind of at an all-time high. And they also are a team with kind of an average farm system. MLB.com ranked as the 14th. So I do expect them to be sellers. Stock up, get that depth, try to find a long-term replacement for Xander Bogaerts if you think that is the move.
I got to agree with you here with the Red Sox just because going into the season, people weren't even really sure what they were doing. It was like they were not retooling. It was like a soft rebuild almost because they had pieces, but they were just, they bought Trevor Story, but you knew they weren't a good team even if they made that move because just the pitching, they lost Eduardo Rodriguez. It was a weird offseason for them. It felt like they made moves just to make moves because that's what the rest of their division was doing. I do got to agree with you here. I do think they're sellers. I'd say you trade Christian Vasquez as quick as possible because it's almost like he's like a Gary Sanchez almost, except not as much power, but like with that average because there's times he's hot and it's like, wow, this guy could be a 300 hitter all the time. And then when he's cold, man. He can't hit the side of a barn. So I would think that they're sellers. Aside from him, I would also, like you said, Bogaerts should move. You don't want another Mookie Betts situation here where you lose a player just because you didn't want to pay him and you ended up getting nothing. As I previously said, Trevor Story, I think, was signed really just, start here at second base, but we're going to push you over to shortstop. I like how you said they got a chance. We're going to find out through this little run if they're really going to make it or not. But even if they have a good run there, I think with the Blue Jays and the Yankees, I mean, the Yankees just been the best team in baseball, obviously, but with the Blue Jays, Yankees and
Tampa Bay.
Thank you. I don't know why it escaped me. But of all of them catching their stride, man, it's just going to, even if, let's say, the Red Sox end up having they go well over 500, 10 games over, 15, 20, whatever it may be. They do have a rough stretch immediately after that. So the fact that you not only need to have a great stretch during those weak teams and then have a good stretch as well during that rough stretch of teams, it's too much. You're asking for way too much. You're asking them to essentially be a team that they haven't been all season. And I think even if they do have a good, nice little short stretch against those under 500 teams, it's just going to be fool's gold. And I think the best move here is to be sellers, and you can only hope to win games because it gives you a little leverage so people don't think you're as desperate. So the other sellers we got here, correct me if I'm wrong, Jake, it's that you told me this and it caught me off guard, but I had to agree once you went into detail once again. You have a way of convincing me, man. And it's the other Sox. It's the other side of the foot, I guess. And we're talking about the White Sox here. Everyone knows I'm like almost a low-key White Sox fan. Like they're my American.
You've been a supporter. You've been a supporter.
I love them, man. But like, as you were telling me, they're weird. They can't figure it out, and it's like it's right in front of their face. But tell me why you think the White Sox are going to be sellers this year.
Well, they have the dead last farm system from MLB.com ranked. But currently, I think with the Twins above them, there's nobody else in their division that's really competitive. And I don't think they really have to do much to pass this overachieving Twins team because they are overachieving. Mm-hmm. And we talked about this last week. So right now, they currently sit at 23 and 24. That's 5 games back out of first. 5 games. Now, they're a team that is constantly injury prone, constantly
tell me about it.
Riddled with just bad luck. You know what I mean? So I just think if they can hold it together, I think it's kind of subtraction or addition by subtraction will kind of be the best fit for them. If they can get some depth behind some of these players, some young guys that can bring them next year, I still think they can compete this year with the roster they have or less. Getting rid of Dallas Keuchel, Aaron Boomer, some of these weird contracts you have that you really don't need and that really just kind of stopgap people. Do that, trade back, get some depth for the next year, retool, and you still can compete this year because your division is weak. And that's why I think they will be sellers.
See, I agree with you on that. What's really killing me is I get their farm system is the last in the MLB, but it's because they have all this young talent that finally came up, which is why I'm such a fan of them, because I mean, they have the makings to be almost like a Golden State Warriors of the MLB. They got all the pieces homegrown. You got Luis Robert. You got what's his name? Uh,
Tim Anderson, Jose
no,
Abreu,
the other outfielder, with the E, Jimenez. But yeah, either
Eloy
way,
Jimenez.
see, he's been injured so much I can't even remember his name because that's just like you said, man. That's the issues. This team, no matter what, can't stay healthy. So it kills me. You got Yasmani Grandel, who's not having a great season. Let's be honest, but he's a big catcher name, so that might be a piece I would move as well to be a seller. I just I feel like they could retool, but it's really what are you trying to sell? Like, okay, I'll trade AJ Pollock. What's he really going to grab me though? Is it really going to be anything that could help boost the farm system from? I get it, you can't be lower than last, but is a trade like that going to help me more than it's going to hurt me? What do you think?
I don't think it's going to hurt you. For the fact is, when you're trading, when you're thinking of the farm system, right? There a lot of these farm systems are very top heavy, where they'll have like these kind of very upper echelon prospects and no depth behind it, and no MLB ready talent. So if they're willing to kind of part ways with some of their current players and make those stopgap veterans for other teams, like I said, Dallas Keuchel, Aaron Boomer, you just said AJ Pollock, Manny Rondell. These are all players that can potentially bring in youth for the next year to kind of bring in depth pieces that are cheap options that you'll have under club control for a couple years. Mm-hmm. So I think it's the move for them right now, just considering their state. Like I said, you really don't have to be that great to compete with the Minnesota Twins to kind of retake your throne in this division. There's not much going on. So I think an addition by subtraction here is your best move, because you're not going to get these upper echelon players unless you're trading Jose Abreu or Tim Anderson, which you're not doing. Jose Abreu should win an MVP, and Tim Anderson's the future at shortstop for you. He's your cornerstone. So what you need to do is get some MLB closer prospects that are more MLB ready and that can kind of fill in these times of need. Because right now they don't have much depth behind Tim Anderson, who just got hurt. They don't have much depth behind Jose Abreu or kind of anybody else. So I think that's the move for this year.
So let me ask you, what do you think about this? Because so we have an underperforming prospect essentially here. He's in his second year, and I'm talking about their left fielder, Andrew Vaughn. He's not really hitting the way people thought. They thought he was going to be a stud. Actually, I'm lying now that I checked, because last time I checked his stats, he was batting well below 250. But I just pulled up the stats, and he's batting 291 right now. So kid's killing it completely. Forget about that mark. But as I was mentioning trade candidates, we've been talking all about the teams and who's buying, who's selling. So let's dive right into it. Who do you have as your number one trade candidate to be moved this trade season?
Willson Contreras of the Chicago Cubs, catcher. Yeah, no, he's easily probably the best catcher that I think that'll be available, unless the Phillies make Jets or Realmuto available. But Willson Contreras, I mean, right now he's hitting 271. He's got 18 RBIs, 8 home runs, 8 doubles. He is a below average defender. Hasn't been great at defense, but offensively, he is what a team like the Astros or a team like the Yankees can kind of add that would put them over the top. And those are actually my top suitors in the Astros or the Yankees. I think the Astros obviously have the glaring need. They really don't have a great catcher. So this will just add to that kind of offensive arsenal, as well as the Yankees just getting rid of Gary Sanchez this year. This would give them something that's comparable that might actually hit above 250 for once. So I think Willson Contreras is probably the top option on the market, I think, in terms of value for those top tier teams.
You know, I completely agree with you that he could go to the Yankees. I don't see the Astros as much, but I could totally see the move to the Yankees. I'll even throw another crazy team at you. Some people might say it's completely wild. I think the Mets could possibly look at him just because, he's a young talent. Yes, we did just give the contract to James McCann, but let's be honest, he's been underperforming, and it was a short-term contract. It wasn't anything crazy. I believe he's only going to have 2 years left after this year.
Mm-hmm.
I believe. And not only that, but I mean, hey, we can rotate catchers. You could have, depending on who you're playing or who's pitching that night, you have James McCann, the defensive catcher, because he is, although he's not a Gold Glove catcher, he's the best catcher defensively we've had in God knows how long.
He is the top 5 defensive catcher right now in the league.
Exactly.
Right? I think in defensive runs saved, he's top 5, and in like pitch framing, I believe he's top 5 as well. So he's a great defensive catcher. He does bring value in terms of that, but you're hitting below 202 beside for a couple clutch hits early in the season. that's not really going to get the job done. That's what I'm saying. Like a team that is the kind of the upper echelon of the top tiers, I really want to make that push. Like an offensive piece like this can help. Now, I do know with the Mets that Max Scherzer and a lot of pitchers do love throwing to Thomas Nido. And that means you might have to potentially carry 3 catchers. And I don't know if that will.
Yeah, that never works out, because then it's just one of them is ending up eating the bench, and that's going to be Nito as much as people love him pitching. Or it might be James McCann, man. Who knows? Uncle Stevie, he don't care. Let that money rest on the bench. It's okay. But either way, that's why I think the Mets could be a potential suitor. I don't think they're number one. I really do think the Yankees are going to make an extreme push. If not the Yankees, maybe even the Padres, because they have never been able to find really anyone to produce from that catcher position. So another mover, speaking of the Yankees, someone else who I believe is going to end up being a top candidate to leave, rumored since the beginning of the season. It's actually a shock he hasn't been traded yet. That's Frankie Montas, starting pitcher of the Oakland A's. Just like the Yankees, like everybody else, they need starting pitching. Although their starting pitching is what is winning it this year, never hurts to have more depth, especially a person like Frankie Montas, currently the ace for the A's. He's just killing it this year. What do you think about Frankie Montas? You think he has any other potential trade spots besides the Yankees?
Well, there are a bunch of teams that need pitching. I would say the Angels need pitching. The Mets could use the Mets might need a starting pitcher depending where these things go with Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer and how they're rehabbing, or even Medjugorje. So for you said Frankie Montas having a great year. He's got a 3.2 ERA, 71 Ks. Probably got 2-5 records because he's on one of the worst teams in baseball, if not the worst team in baseball. And I think you said the Yankees already, but that would be my probably the top trade suitor for them. They need front end pitching. He's been great all year. He's used to the AL. Frankie Montas is a real contender to really put a team over the top. Put a pitching staff kind of over the top for a team, for sure.
Yeah, I think besides, the Yankees, since I would say he is the number one potential trade candidate for starting pitching, I don't think there's really any other starting pitcher who is a high trade potential. I think besides the Yankees and Mets, I think you really got to look at some of these teams who they don't want to pay too much for a starter like that, like a Minnesota. Minnesota likes making weird trades like that. But then again, Minnesota never likes trading for good players anyway. Minnesota's weird, man. I never understand it. So, like a Frankie Montas is what you need. You get Frankie Montas and this next guy I think you're going to mention for a potential trade candidate. Minnesota has a chance then, you know what I'm saying? But they're not going to do it. Let's be honest. Who do you think is another potential trade candidate?
Luis Castillo, the Cincinnati Reds. Now, the Cincinnati Reds are a team notably known for dumping players. Obviously, they just did it with Jesse Winker. I mentioned it multiple times. They salary jumped $11 million. Jesse Winker. They had literally nothing going on for them as a franchise. So Luis Castillo, he has been pretty solid, effective for the Reds. He's 2-2, 26 innings pitched, 28 Ks, 3.38 ERA. I think he's under team control until 2023. So this would be a great grab for a team, and a team like the Yankees. But I do think the Angels. I think he'd be a great fit on the Angels behind Syndergaard and Ohtani in that rotation as kind of their third head, and that would be awesome. Luis Castillo is a great pitcher. He comes with a great upside. He has a strikeout machine. So I think Luis Castillo is going to be a name a name that is often. No. A name that is mentioned quite often this coming deadline. Also, his teammate Tyler Mahle also mentioned in these trade rumors. He's having a horrible year. I believe he's like a 4.3 something ERA. So Luis Castillo is my guy to be moved.
Hey, maybe there's a potential, they could get packaged or something. We've seen crazier things. We've seen a Max Scherzer and Trey Turner package.
Yeah, that was unreal.
Unreal is correct. I could see Luis Castillo, aside from the teams we just mentioned, I could see him going to the Rays or even an Astros or Braves, a team that really they use their analytics to bring up these pitchers. Because, as you said, Luis Castillo is having a great year. He's having a better year than usual because last year he actually had almost a 4 ERA. He was right there, just 0.02 under. But other than that, he's one of those players where I feel like, yes, the talent's there, but it's not as consistent as it should be. He's almost going to be like a Blake Snell or Justin Verlander. Once you bring them to those teams where they just somehow the switch flips and the pitchers become Cy Young Award contenders, I think we're going to see a real great season for Luis Castillo where he's going to have more control. That ERA is going to drop below 3. And like I just said, he could be a potential Cy Young Award winner if he ends up on those teams. Any other team, he's going to be a solid 2 or 3 possibly. So we did mention Minnesota and how they don't like trading for players, but they do like trading their players. I'm going to mention somebody who is just honestly, some people might call me crazy for it, but I don't see why not. And that's Mr. Carlos Correa. What if they end up trading him? I mean, we see where Minnesota's at. They're leading the division. He hasn't been a major part of it. That contract realistically was for this situation right here where he's injured. And, if he ends up being injured he comes back and re-injures himself and misses more of the season, he can just opt in and keep getting paid a butt ton of money. As the Twins, since I see what's going on, it's almost what I got, what you had with the White Sox mentality, where addition by subtraction. Why are we going to pay this guy? Let's get rid of him, trade him, maybe even try and trade for one of these starting pitchers we just named and use Carlos Correa as a piece. Do I think that's actually going to happen? Because no, those are terrible teams. But there is going to be a top contender out there who is going to want Carlos Correa, no matter how much he's getting paid for the next 3 years. Because, look at the Dodgers, man. They just make it happen. If you really want that starting shortstop, which anybody would take a Carlos Correa, you figure out, make it happen. Honestly, what if, call me crazy right now, what if the Red Sox try and figure out a trade with the Twins and do a swap of, shortstops? What if they
story for Correa?
Yeah, not even just Bogarts for Correa.
Bogarts
you don't
still
want
has
to
the
pay
no
that.
trade clause, and I don't think he'd want to play. I don't think he'd want to play in Minnesota.
Hey man, they paying people. Who knows? Maybe money talks.
Yeah, money talks. I mean, my thing is, I've heard from the rumors and what I've read on Twitter and all around that he's probably not going to opt in, depending on obviously if he gets hurt or not, depending how he ends his season. But if he doesn't opt in, if you're really worried about that, him not opting in. And depending on how much you're kind of valuing him to your winning success right now, because like you said, they lead the division. I don't see why you wouldn't trade him to kind of depending what value you're getting back. I really wouldn't go for one of those upper echelon prospects that aren't going to be up for 4 or 5 years. I'd go for somebody that's more more MLB ready and ready to produce right now. Because for a Twins organization that hasn't really been that competitive, they want to win now. They want to compete, and I don't see them trading Carlos Correa because I feel like it will kind of make them look stupid for even doing it in the first place, unless they are getting an overpaid deal for him, and if they take a plummet in the standings in the next month.
Yeah, man. I mean, like I said, it was a crazy thought. I'm just saying though, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Just with the way things are laid out right now, if they could find a suitor, it would be rough. If they could, though, I don't see why they don't do it. Other than that, man, it's a crazy trade season. I'm sure this isn't going to be the first, talks of trading we have, but this is the end of this episode for the MLB. We're trying something different this week. You're getting hit right now with a little MLB. We got the bunts today, and tomorrow you're going to get hit with the bruises. We're going to hit you all with all the football talk. We all got it's going to be interesting topics. It's going to be fresh faces. It's going to be surprise candidates. Don't worry about it, man. Just tune in. As always, 7 p.m. It's going to be a great time. But until then, we actually got a secret episode popping up. We got our short, the Big Blue Bodega. Our short episode, we're getting into it because you know what? There is some things to talk about Giants. And, of course, we don't want to flood tomorrow with the Giants. We want to be tomorrow a nice little charcuterie board for everyone to grab a little of everything they want. But right now, in about 5-10 minutes, let us get settled, pull up all the info we need. Big Blue Bodega coming down. All we ask right now is you guys tune in and don't forget to follow the Bunts and Bruises Twitter page. We're getting a couple follows, man, but those are rookie numbers. We got to get them up. Until then, we'll see you guys, honestly, in 10 minutes. But Bunts and Bruises wise, we'll see you tomorrow night, all right? Peace.
Oh, much love.